Let's run the whole thing. And welcome to game engineering. In this case, we're talking about prototyping. Prototyping is extremely important and nobody does it. No, everybody does it because the final product is often like a prototype. But there is actually a technical approach to that, and that's what I actually want to look into. So prototypes can be created with a lot of different tools. You can also make a different type of game as a prototype, which we'll come back later to. You can, for instance, create a video. You can just paint something on a paper. You can talk to people and thereby create a prototype or do a paper prototype. Of course, you also create paper prototypes while programming and stuff like that. You're actually focusing with a prototype on a specific aspect of the game. So I was researching videos on YouTube and saw if I find something interesting, and there was a video which is a great title, 7 basic mistakes you do while prototyping. And the first thing the person would say was, a prototype is to test a specific game mechanic. No, that's not true. It can test a specific game mechanic, but it actually tests a specific aspect of the game. For instance, the aesthetics. I mean, you can test what a game would look like, and if people like the aesthetics, the look and feel of the game. Again, that's wrong. Look and feel. Feel is kinesthetics. You can test core mechanics. You can test interaction. You can test the underlying models, like the economy. You can test how the game feels. I have a few examples on that today too. My most fun Game Jam games, actually. I like them a lot. You can test what it looks and what it sounds. And the prototypes, and that's really the hard part, they should be created and dismissed at a fast pace. So there was this great video I just watched while eating something from GDC 2018. There is a link in the slides a little bit later on, I think on the last slide, where people say that typically, when they teach games at the university, we have these people who are very good at programming and those people who are programming novices, who are still working on being very good at programming. And typically, those people with a lot of programming knowledge over-engineer stuff. So they sit down and would create a prototype in 5 minutes, but it takes them 2 days because they can. So you try to make it nice, you try to make it responsive. Yeah, of course you need a splash screen and a credit section and whatever you need. And those people who are actually not that good in programming, they of course take their time. That's the problem. But they should be created and dismissed at a fast pace, which means that for those people who are not good at programming, they should focus on prototype technologies that allow them to be fast without a lot of programming knowledge. And the dismissed part is also really hard because, and that's especially hard with this studying games, game engineering, game studies, game design, that most of these games are kind of a homework, and you start to get emotionally invested doing it for half a year or something like that. But actually you have to dismiss the stuff, like, oh, that was nice, but throw it away. Then you learn something from the prototype, maybe you pick something from the prototype, but don't work on it like forever. So we had this wonderful group of 3 students. I think it was first 4, then 3. One dismissed earlier than the other 3. They had this nice game. I forgot the name of the game. I actually know a person who knows the name of the game, but they called themselves like a virtual studio, Healing Bullet Games. Actually, 2 of them work now in games industry, and they have this nice. They had this nice game they worked their whole studies on, and they were extremely invested. 2 people actually made their master thesis about it and everything, but at the end it didn't come out as they wanted it to come out, and then of course they had to dismiss it. But it took them 2 years. And these 2 years, they could have done a lot of other prototypes, tested a lot of other game mechanics and stuff like that. Which does not mean that if you have a great idea, you shouldn't pursue it. But there are other great ideas too. So keep your eyes open and dismiss at a fast pace. Also, prototypes can be made by non-technical members of the team. That's definitely not a problem. You'll see a few tools that people can use, and you can, let's go into that later. In engineering and also in research and computing, you typically try to generate ideas, formalize the ideas, then test the ideas, throw them away after evaluation, and then do the whole cycle again. And the faster you create those prototypes, which are here in the revise or actually recreate part, the more cycles you can do to converge to the point of a perfect product. Yeah. Let's go with an example. Basically, everybody knows Battleship, which is this 10 by 10 square grid, like this one. You might have seen it. There were these plastic versions of it. So you have two grids, one for your own, which is secret, and the other one you can show for the other player. You play in two, in groups of two, and then you draw your ships on the paper, and they are in secret. And the other one would say something like G8, and then you say hit or no hit. And depending on the hit, people try to sink your battleships. So that's pretty easy. You can create it on your own. That's the whole rules. And yeah. What you can then do if you create this paper prototype is you can refine it. For instance, you can hand out sonar chips where you say, I put a sonar instead of shooting. You have 3 chips for sonars. I put out a sonar at G8, and then it's ping, and you see in the surrounding if there's a ship or not. And then you can actually test if this changes the game. That's the whole idea. And this does cost you nothing, because you can just put 3 coins from your purse there and say, that's the sonar chips. Let's try it out. So this is a really fast iteration. And if you don't like it, throw it away. If it's too much, give it 1 sonar chip. You can make the field smaller or bigger. I mean, you can play with a 100 by 100 field. I mean, that will most likely take some time until you hit the first ship. But maybe with the sonar, it gets better again. You can, for instance, introduce torpedoes or tornadoes. Everything is better with a lot of tornadoes. And you can change the type of the ships, like carrier or whatever. And by modifying this paper version, you can test if it's the experience you want to convey, if it still feels like the game you want to let people experience, and if the new features actually change the core mechanic which you intend to implement. Or if it's even a better mechanic which you then now intend to implement. But that's the whole idea. So you can get to new ideas or to refined ideas really, really fast. So that's an example from a game jam. We had this great idea of recreating the one-tap quest, I think. Did I show it the last time? One-tap, yeah. And our idea was to recreate it, and there were so many people that actually did some work on that. And for instance, we tried to implement the, what is it called? Generic universal role-playing system. Do you know that? GURPS, yeah. Pen and paper role players know it because it can do everything, but it's really hard to implement, as we noticed. We had the GURPS mini rule sheet and tried to implement it for this game. It was really hard. So we came up with our own idea, which is totally well explained here. So you have attack in defense and you have a level. The monsters, you would attack the monsters, and then you would use 6-sided dice which determine how many hit points you take off the opponent, like the monster from the hero and the hero from the monster. And when you reach 0, you're dead. So that was the whole role-playing idea. And then we had power-ups like scrolls and items and so on and so on. So the first thing we had to think about is when to change a level. And then we had this nice thingy of trying to make it bigger, but not doubling it all the time. You know, typically these experience curves go exponential, but that's, yeah. We didn't want to do that, so we tried out this formula and then used it. And later on we actually had, or I actually did this one-tap Monster Waves paper prototype, because then we could test out the whole idea. So we had the monsters, which I did not draw. So monster 1 to monster 6 in multiple iterations. That would be the levels of the monsters. There is a hero, scroll, fireball, potions, swords and shields. And that would be the field of the game. And you can take a ruler and then move it along, something like that. There would be the formula for determining the hit points. And yeah, then you can actually move the stuff along and try it out. So that's the basic idea. I mean, it's quite a lot of work to position everything, but you can try it out without programming. So that's the good part of it. So actually, 2 people can start playing with that, balancing the rules, and 2 more people can start on the artwork and programming, something like that. We have the digital prototype here. Let's see if that still works. Yes, it takes some time. Maybe it works. Yes, my notebook kind of makes more noise, so it should work. The new game, this is you. So that's the tutorial, this is you. Start. Obviously, we had no time for a tutorial. And then you can actually start here. And yeah. No. Done and gone. Again. So it's not as well done as, yeah, again. Dead. Wait, we need to go somewhere where I have a lot of these blues. Yes. Now we're there. And at some point you actually have, oh no, died again. At some point you're not dying again, or you have no chance of dying, but obviously I didn't get it. No, that's bad. Now, maybe now. Does it work? Oh no, again not. Whatever. The link is in there, you can go for it. But it's really, really hard to balance. That was our impression at that point. So more on paper prototyping, there are from Gamasutra, which is now GameDev.org or something like that, 2 articles on that, rather old, but I mean, paper didn't change too much in the last years. So if you want to know more, you can take a look at that. So having these physical paper prototypes, you can basically go on with them and look into if there are conflicting rules or imbalanced parts, revisit the core game mechanics, and of course strip away what you don't need. With One-Tap Monster Wave, we had the problem that we had so many features and we threw them away 90%, like multiple classes. There would be a mage, there would be somebody who throws fireballs and arrows and monsters that come towards you, stuff like that. But that all introduced balancing problems. It was not extremely robust in terms of combat. So these physical prototypes allow to focus on the core game without programming or production. They save a lot of time and especially money, because you can close down venues that you don't want to go along early in the process. And the overall outcome is typically much better as there is a way to experiment early. So the fastest you get to the first prototype to test your game, the better. So that's just the physical prototypes because I like them the most. But then the digital prototypes are, of course, by the way, physical prototype is also when you talk to people. So something like you have the story in your head, and then you let people just play it like you're the dungeon master and other people are the players. And then you can play all the NPCs and try to set the narrative like that. That's also a kind of prototyping. Yeah. The digital prototypes are good because they are more immediate. For a physical prototype, you need an operator. Like, I mean, with One-Tap Monster Wave, the interaction is I tap here. Then the operator does the rest. That's not so bad. But if you have something which is an action-reaction game, then the operator has to move stuff around. And that takes time, so there is no immediate interactivity. And also you can test other stuff like controllers, cameras, AR, VR, the feel of the whole thing. And you can start to build models like the physics, the skill trees, the game logic, the data, and so on and so on. So you can reuse that later on. So that's the benefit of the digital prototypes. Of course, they are not complete games, but they focus on very specific aspects. Like, can I use the MetaQuest 3 headset to convey the feeling of being followed by an avalanche? That would be a very specific question, and you can answer that with a prototype. And most likely it will be a lot of white and a lot of noise. It's composed only of the elements that make them functional. Like I said, you don't need a splash screen for a prototype. You don't need a credit section, just the basic stuff. You also, VR headset, you also don't need it to be installable on every headset. It's totally sufficient if you have to hook up one specific headset to one specific development notebook and then ask people to come and test. Yeah? So that's also good. And it's also minimal in terms of art and sound and incomplete. So use whatever assets you have. Take a look at the Kenny.nl assets. They are always there, and you can create fast prototypes with it. It's a very clean set of assets. Yeah, and that would be already a digital prototype, which takes away this rolling the dice and then determining who wins. Because what we want to do is we want to give the monster a fair chance to kill the hero and the other way around. So we had the hero with the hit points, the experience, a level, attack and defense values, and the monster with a level, attack and defense value. And then this one is just rolling the die, this part here. That's the easy part. And this would be 10 times a monster versus a hero, and we can fool around with these parameters and see if the monster actually kills the hero or the other way around. So there it says monster killed, and there it says hero killed. Okay. Great. And actually what I wanted to do is to run this script. That's why I have it here. You can basically run it with Node.js or whatever. I'm just too lazy to actually run it in Node.js, so I have this great tool. Where is it? Here. Script run in the browser. Wait, here. And then I can run the code. The only problem is that, of course, the console is hidden. So it would be here. Yeah. So if I run it, I can see here, monster killed, monster killed, monster killed, monster killed, hero killed, monster killed, hero killed, monster killed. And so from 10 encounters, the hero survived 2 of them. No, the monster survived 2 of them. So it's a good ratio. And then we can start to fool around. For instance, now we can see there is 44, 61, 62, 48, 88, 13. Maybe if we reduce the number of hit points to 80, this changes a lot. Wait, I have to clear it to see what happens. So the hero is killed much more often. So 80 hit points is definitely not enough. We can go for 120. Yeah, clear it again because it's grouping stuff. Yeah, and now the hero survives basically everything with 120 hit points. And now you can try to find the sweet spot. So that's the benefit of this whole thing. So now we have run something like 50 combat simulations already, which is quite a lot of work rolling the die. So that's the benefit of it. If you're totally into, and that's now where you have to decide if your prototype is finished or not. Of course, you can run it automatically and do a broad search on every parameter, make an analysis and then nice Excel tables and everything. But then, of course, the programming will kind of exceed the few lines we have here. Yeah, and documentation would also be really great. Hit points, experience, level, attack, and defense. We can also try what happens when we raise the attack to, say, 15. And clear. Oh yes, it basically kills the monster all way long. Here we are with maybe 11. We started out with 10. Yeah. So this is obviously a critical thing. The 10 was already quite balanced. Yeah. Now we have actually the monster winning. So that's a very critical parameter. Please.
Is this somehow
No, that's not unit testing. Unit testing is a specific form of testing code snippets. That's from software engineering.
But we don't have unit testing in game.
You can use unit testing in games, but I'm not doing it. So if you're interested in that, that's a typical software engineering technique, then I'd recommend the software engineering classes. We have a great group on that. Yes?
This was in JavaScript, yes, but Unity doesn't support JavaScript anymore. Am I right? As far as I know.
Yeah, but that's the cool thing about the prototypes. As far as you dismiss them fast, it doesn't matter which language you use. You can just use whatever you have at hand. So I like JavaScript because I don't have to install anything, because I have Chrome running here, and I can just show it in the browser. So that's the benefit of JavaScript.
It's just for trying the idea.
It's just for trying the idea, yes. Yes. Another question?
If we want to test the game in a scripted way, what is our solution? Is there any solution?
Pardon, I didn't get the question.
Like if we want to write some lines of code which goes through the game, like instead of playing the game ourselves, letting the code play the game. Is there any solution to that? Like if we are coding with
I'm pretty sure there is. I think in the game frameworks there are, but I'm not aware of a technical implementation of that right now. So I've never tried that. Okay. Back to the slides. So when the hero has a higher level, the hero should win. When the monster has a higher level, the monster should win. Even level should introduce some randomness, but not one that implies that it's unfair. Like you have no chance of winning. If you have something like a 10% chance to win, then that's hard. Yeah, but this is really hard to balance, and that's why we have machinations and similar tools. These things are actually pretty cool because what they can do is they can you can try an economic system in a way. So you can see what happens if you stuff in stuff and then use stuff from the pools and then see if the pools are drained, if you need to put in more stuff, if there are constraints on the stuff, and so on and so on. So I'll just show you a little bit of the tutorial here. I hope it doesn't crash my computer. Where to start? Easy level progression. Is this already? No, that's a video. Where is a machination? Is there a link? Randomness. There should be actually a link with that, but it does not like me. It's actually interactive. Unfortunately, they changed the tutorials. So doesn't like me too much. Running simulation. Obviously, it was too much too much effort on the server. So the whole idea would be that you create stuff. Here, you kill an enemy and you get 50 experience points. If you have 100, then you can actually convert to the experience points to a new level. Like you can level up, and if you level up, you just add to this border. Like the next level would cost you 200, next level would cost you 300, and then you can run and play it. I was just looking if there is a way to actually. There should be some link. I don't know what they're doing. Oh, that sounds good. Yes. It's not the one that I wanted to show you, but maybe there is some. And that's what I said with crashing my notebook. My notebook is getting 5 years old in February. It's very brave, actually. Yes. But that's the one you can try yourself. I'll just show you what I did. Yes, that looks good. No, this has a strange way of, if you allow cookies, then yeah. So let's just start it and we can see what happens. So starting out with 50 hit points, you would simulate losing hit points with a monster encounter, like a 6-sided die. And then with the monster counter, you actually, when you have 5 monsters, you would level up and then your hit points would reset. And the whole point of the simulation is how many monsters can you basically try to kill if each of them takes up to 6 hit points from you. So you can say, okay, obviously my hit points are going down, 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 but they restore at some point. You can see the curve here. If I change it, so I would have to log in to change it. Maybe if I click this one, oh no. Do I have, oh, maybe it works like that. Yes, of course. All new terms and services, a lot to scroll. They learned that from Apple. Make the scroll bars as small as you can so that everybody starts scrolling like crazy. Okay, now we have it. So this one, D6, we can actually change it to T12 and see what happens.
That's 2 times more than the previous.
Now we hit zero, of course. So now the hero would be killed and yeah. Okay, that's really bad. So maybe instead of D12 we take something like D10. And that's actually the whole thing. The thing you can do, and then you can even compare the curves. That was bad luck die. A bad D10. And you can have a lot of fun with that actually. So, do I have?
It's also useful for free-to-play games, yes?
Pardon, too?
I think it's also useful for free-to-play games to try the in-app purchase system.
Yes, absolutely. That's also what you can do. You can try, for instance, you get per level 100 coins and then you have stuff to buy. Or there was an example on you have to craft arrows to shoot. And of course you have to have resources. So the dependence on resources to buying stuff to then be able to kill monsters to acquire new resources. That would be a kind of a feedback loop, and to test that feedback loop and how it, yeah. And obviously with a D10 it doesn't work out. As you can see, no hit points anymore. Really bad. Yeah, but that's what you can do with this stuff. It's rather expensive as far as I know, but students are using it a lot to test their in-game economies, to test their level progression, to test the resource economy and stuff like that. Yeah. And it's really nice to see everything blinking. So have a go at it. It's actually huge fun.
Is it for free?
I'm using the free version, yes. So it's limited, but you can actually try around and at some point decide if you need it that much that you pay. Okay, so that was physical versus digital prototypes. So just to see what you can do with it. But actually you have to think of what you're prototyping, not the tool, digital, physical, but what you're prototyping. And there are 4 different areas of prototyping. And this is always the important exam question. What are the 4 different areas of prototyping? And then people say something like digital, physical, vocal, and narrative. No, it's not. It's game mechanics, aesthetics, kinesthetics, and technology. So the whole idea would be to test an aspect of the game, especially if the game itself works, the game core mechanic works if the kinesthetics of the game, the feel of the game conveys what you want to do, because games are engines of experience and you want people to experience an arc of emotions, so that's the kinesthetics part. Technology, can I actually implement that with Unity or with Babylon or with whatever game engine you choose? And aesthetics. Also technology, can I implement it on my own with JavaScript in the 5 days I have at hand? Also a very important question, because last time we had a group, they created an awesome game. It was really wonderful. It was a visual novel where the son of the god of luck in a virtual, or in some virtuality, was lying, and then his father would take away his ability to make decisions. So that was the story. And he would try to get it back, but he cannot make any decisions in a visual novel. That's pretty fucked up. So what he has to do is he has to use a one-armed bandit all the time. And so it was a kind of game where they tested if you could remove the agency from the player with a stunning narrative, awesome graphics, by the way. And actually would have been totally implementable using RenPy, a visual novel engine, but they implemented RenPy themselves in JavaScript. So, and they said, oh, that's not a problem. They should have prototype technology at first. And of course, aesthetics, look, sound, and so on. Okay, so let's go into these 4 areas. The game mechanics are discrete features of the formal aspects of the game, like the combat system. So if you take out one aspect, for instance, what is it? City skylines, the sewage system, and how it runs, then this would be one aspect of the game. Actually, the sewage system of City Skylight is Turing complete. You can build a calculator with the sewage, the poo calculator. And it actually takes something like 20 minutes to determine a simple calculation with it. There was a tweet on the 10 most popular Turing complete games. And SimCity, not SimCity, City Skylines, the sewage system is Turing complete. Pretty cool. Yeah, for instance, Jonathan Blow tested the game mechanics to change the game time before coming up with Braid. Might have heard about Braid. Braid was a game, a platformer, where you could turn back the time. So you could open a door with a switch on this end and then turn back the time, and while you were opening the door on this end, you can do at the same time with your actual person walk through the door. And he actually came up with it by testing something like Oracle Billiard, which was playing also in the future, so also ahead of time. And it was not playable basically, but he got the feeling. He got a feeling out of it that he wanted to use in another game, and came up with Braid then. So that was the benefit of this prototype. So this is a developer diary from Flower, and that is actually pretty cool. I just lose a few words on it in advance. So I've seen a GDC talk by Kelly Santiago, which was in the team of that game company that created the game. I'm not sure if she was producing or designing. I'm not sure. Maybe it says so anyway. She's showing up in the video. And what she told at the GDC was that they had this awesome line of prototypes. So it was a PS3 game, and for the actual game, they pulled in a lot of people from Sony because they had no idea what to do with the PS3. I mean, it had a cell processor. It was really hard to implement stuff on the PS3. But they started out using a different game engine, XNA from Microsoft. Was it XNA? Yes, I think so. C# based game engine. I think Monogame is the spiritual successor, and then Unity at the end of the day. And they created a lot of prototypes to see how they can make this game work. And that's a video about it, so let's take a look into it a little bit at least. I have to see if I can turn on the Lautsprecher, the speakers. Yes, here we are. Takes some time, then I have to be fast. Yes. Now I was not good at it.
I think once people get a chance to play Flower, they're going to be talking about how new and unique and emotional the experience is.
I think Flower, as what we call it, is a video game version of a poem. I think asks something different of the player.
Oh, sorry. No, but I wanted to stop it because that's actually something that is a really clear design goal. Flower is a video game version of a poem. This gives a goal which is not graspable and which you cannot define. Oh, it's like a poem, it's a video game, so we do that and that and that. It's really hard to achieve, so you have to test how you get there. So let's see how I get back to where I stopped it. Ah, here we are.
Something different of the player. We are a generation of game makers who've now grown up our whole lives with video games. We see the potential for what an impact they can have on us. With That Game Company, we start our ideas with an emotion of how we want the player to feel. And then we bring in the engine, the art direction, the music, and everything, and the interaction, what the player's doing in the game together to try and set that tone. The concept of Flower started with Genova Chen, who's the creative director. His inspirations from moving from Shanghai, China to Los Angeles and growing up in this extremely urban environment and moving to a relatively more rural one. The contrast between the bustle of a city and the serenity of nature. When we start off on a concept, we just make lots and lots of little teeny prototypes of different ideas and different things we could possibly use to try and see if it will work, because it's all experimental at that stage. The current gameplay kind of came from this one bug. All of a sudden, just these petals from the flowers were bouncing through the air. We just got an immediate emotional reaction to it. And so we said, that's where we got to go.
Actually, it was one prototype
The
that
mechanics
hooked
and
them
the
all up.
controls of the games draw the player into this experience where they get to soar around beautiful environments and explore things on their own time. It's quite unique and actually a very deep emotional experience.
You're presented with an apartment in a city, and on the windowsill is one flower. And when you focus in on that flower, you're taken into this imaginary landscape. You can blow wind and collect flower petals and move through different environments to change the world. The controls are pretty simple. You use the 6-axis controller to tilt and move the swarm, and then every button does the exact same thing. There's this open-endedness to the experience. There's no score, there's no time limit, there's no death. And the tagline for us has been life in balance.
So I don't know if you've looked at it, but there is this derelict world at the beginning. So they had different levels. And the first one just pull you in this beautiful environment, having this serenity feeling. Then there was this tunnel level just before where you go through a gorge, which gives you the feeling of speed and uncontrollable, I can't stop it. And there would be the dread level with the derelict world, where you see like a derelict swing there and you cannot go into the dark places, you would lose petals immediately. And the whole idea of Flower was, as they said, but what they did is they had these lots of prototypes, like sun burning the soil and then flowers wouldn't grow, so it was kind of too dark from the theme. Then they tried to have something like the wind pushing like a golf club the seeds into a hole to let flowers grow, to have more seeds. That was kind of too competitive. Then they had a sleepwalker prototype where you couldn't actually see where you're going, like blurred vision. And everything kind of contributed a little bit to the game. But the main thing they found was when the petals would be moving with you with the wind, that would give you the impression of being part of this environment. And they had a whole series of prototypes. That was actually pretty awesome what she talked about. I didn't get the whole GDC talk, so this is just a little bit that they did a feature on the PlayStation channel. But anyway, if you haven't played Flower and get a chance, try it out. It's actually a well-done game. Yeah, there are, from the GDC talk, it was already in 2009. Oh my God. So the goal was the emotional experience. It should be more than aggression, hate, anger, and fear. This was actually the time when people tried to move away from Call of Duty, Unreal Tournament, and stuff like that. I mean, nowadays, especially you that are sitting here, know that there are games that do different stuff. But at that time, 99% of the players played Counter-Strike, Call of Duty, Unreal Tournament. Some of them were professional Quake 3 players. So that's basically the landscape of games at that time. And that's when they started to create those games, and they tried to create this feel-good experience. Well, we now have this whole movement of wholesome games. I don't know if you played Short Hike or Bear and Breakfast, all these nice little games that actually give you a good feeling, Stardew Valley and stuff like that. They have not been there. I mean, then they were on the Nintendo system, but on the PC, no way. So the game design was not clear, but it should be easy to understand. And it was developed over several prototype iterations, and that's what I got from the talk. So they had, for instance, to control the sun to let the flowers grow, but then burn them. The Sleepwalker's perspective, as I said, it was a sleepy view, a blurred environment. The Gove prototype, already said that. So that was how to move these seeds. It came then to the wind blowing the petals, which was a contribution from the Gove prototype. The roller coaster prototype gave you the tunnel experience of speed when they had the wind blowing through the gorge. And the survival prototype, they had the flowers as fuel, so you would jump from flower to flower. If you lose all the petals, you had to start over again, like a platformer. What they had for the final game from this one is the hostile environment, which is, I think, the second to last environment in Flower. They had an orb prototype where the flowers would fill orbs and then unlock stuff. They're still in the final game in the locked environments, in the hideouts. You can actually touch flowers, and then at some point something would open, like a crown of monoliths, and reveal more petals to you. As you don't get a score, it's kind of the feeling of exploration, finding something. They had the prototypes on different platforms. They started actually out with Java, forgot that. Very bad choice for creating games. Only unsuccessful games are based on Java, like Minecraft. So that's also the lesson. There is no worst case scenario by picking the language, because there's always Minecraft if somebody says, don't program a game with Java. But there's Minecraft. And they finished off with the PlayStation 3. 6 people were the core team, and the 3 people that joined later were actually the engineers from Sony who knew how to deal with the PlayStation. Yeah, then prototyping aesthetics is a second field. One thing would be storyboards. If you have a narrative game, then you would definitely need something like a rough sketch of the visual sequence. I don't know if you've seen storyboards, but you definitely get the idea. It's a little bit like a comic, what happens next and stuff like that. It's used in filmmaking, of course. And also it's useful for mapping out potential play within a level, because it can be a non-linear story, and then you have to flesh out what actually happens. Have you played Telltale games, something? Yeah, like The Wolf Among Us. Or so. There's, for instance, with The Walking Dead from Telltale games, non-player characters can die. And the fun part about it is that they just changed the model. So there are 2 non-player characters that can die, and if you kill off one, then the other one will follow you around and have more or less the same dialogue, and will die at the end too. So you just it's just a visual choice. But if it's not a visual choice, like Mass Effect or something like that, you can flesh out a rough sketch of the sequences with storyboards. And of course, concept arts, that would be paintings that convey the visuals, the aesthetics, the feel of the whole game. I don't know if you know this game. Most likely everybody knows it, The Last of Us. They have this distinct view on the world, like everything is overgrown and wilderness has acclaimed stuff and so on and on. It's hugely popular. At the same time, Lost Places is also hugely popular, so people visiting stuff that is derelict, that has been overgrown, and so on and so on. But this was a very nice visual experience of we are living now in this world, and if something happens in 15 years, nobody cares about the streets, about the houses, what would happen then, and that's what you can experience in The Last of Us. They did it very well, this feeling. What you also can do is an animated mock-up of the game in action, which is not a real game technology, but gives you the idea what it would look like to move through the game. Have I shown you the Assassin's Creed 3 concept video already? Yes. So that is animatic. So they are using the Assassin's Creed 2 engine, pulled it up a little bit, the rest is video editing. You can also have an interface prototype, like what is the head-up display like? What does the radar map look like on your whatever SimCity clone? What is your menus like? What is the pause menu? Can it be used that way? Or for instance, Fortnite, the building menu. I have no idea how people do that, but obviously there was a lot of prototyping on that one to throw it away at the end. For the interface, you can often use a paper prototype before moving to a digital format, but this is an area where prototyping is very well supported. And of course, audio sketches to get early drafts of music and sound effect, setting the tone of the game, conveying the feel, and it's actually useful for bringing life to animatics and to other prototypes. So even if your prototype looks like crap, if you have already the draft music, then you can set the mood of the prototype. Yeah, I actually have a tool for creating crap prototypes. It's really nice. I'll show you later. Everybody hated it, so I had to take it out from Practical Game Engineer. Maybe I put it in somewhere in a few days or something like that. I have a Practical Game Engineering anyway this semester. So kinesthetics, that's the actual feel of the game. Now it's easy to explain because it's VR, but say if you played Super Mario, the original one, on the one hand, and played Rayman on the other hand, both are platformers, but they feel differently, okay? And that's actually kinesthetics. I'm pretty sure now the new Super Mario game came out, I'm pretty sure that it feels the same way as the original game does. And they did a lot of prototyping, most likely, to let it be that way. So that's the kinesthetics. They are, yes?
The kinesthetic type is not still clear in my head. Is it the feel of the visuals or the game in general? Or, for example, in Rayman, the character jumps, maybe does a double jump. In Mario, you can't do that. Are we talking about that, or all of these together?
Yeah, basically all of these together, that you have this distinct feeling that this game is playable. It's nothing deterministic to grasp, it's very individual, but the testing allows you to see if people feel a similar way.
It's maybe it can be also represented in shooter games when you are looking at how the shooting feels, whether the weapon is snappy, the aiming.
Yes, yes.
Or is it slow and cumbersome?
Yes, that is actually a very good point. Like, for instance, you're having something like a rocket launcher compared to a shotgun, and if you turn around and you start slugging because of the rocket launcher, something like that. Or there was this difference between Mass Effect and Counter-Strike. With Mass Effect, you actually have a role-playing shooter system where you just shoot at some direction, then there are a few dice rolls at the back, and they would determine if you actually hit the target or not. And this is really, really bad feeling for those people who played Call of Duty, who basically aim and hit. And this one is aim and then roll the dice. So select target, roll the dice. I mean, Fallout was the same one, but never ever shoot in Fallout. Just use the E button and then select. And then the dice rolling will happen. That's a good example for the feel of the game, yes. In these combat situations, it's really, really important. Also the difference between, Skullgirls and common beat-em-ups. where you had this feel of hand-drawn 60 frame per second animations, which give you a different way of experience the game compared to, yeah.
So it's more about gameplay and not visual.
No, it's everything together. It's kind of,
As I have understood, also my colleague mentioned about the feel of the, for example, when you're using a weapon, is it slow, is it fast? I mean, or something like a rocket launcher. It's more about feeling and gameplay, not
Well, there is a
visual.
certain feel that you get from the combination of gameplay and visuals. A certain sensation from playing the game. Whether do you feel like you're like fast, precise, or you're slow, realistic, and heavy, or whatever? Like this sensation comes from everything
No,
together.
the visual, I mean graphics. Graphics, style, final graphics. Because for
depending
you
on,
don't
I
have
think,
to-
depending on the game, these play a big or a small role. Just to give you another example, horror game. I think that's a good example because you have two different ways to approach a horror game. One would be like the overpowered survivor type of horror game. You just go in and kill everything, and if you shoot well, then the zombies are not a problem. And the other one is like this, oh my god, I will die at any rate, but I'll try to get as far as I can get. So you run away and and this is a very different feel. If you test that and then somebody stands there and says, oh, I have to run away, but anyway, I have a gun, tack, 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 and the zombies are gone, then this conveys a different feeling than to, I don't hit them actually. And there the visuals also play in, because if you don't see that well or control it that well, like Resident Evil, then this is basically a game where the avatar is preyed upon, while compared to a game where the avatar is empowered. So this would be also examples for different feel. And you would test that, because the game designer decides about, is it a game where you're preyed upon, or is it a game where you're in power? And that would be the test then, the kinesthetics. Yeah, Guitar Hero. Another example, if you just play it on a gamepad, that definitely does not have the same feeling as just, yeah. It's like, just yesterday somebody said our server is full, so we had to delete our stuff. I don't have too much stuff, but I had a video there from 2012 from people playing SingStar. And that reminded me that we actually played Guitar Hero, SingStar, and Rock Band a lot at the department, and also all the non-curricular activities at that time were things like that. And we even had stage lights and everything. There was even a guy from the Central Information Service here who had a smoke generator, and we would have everything. So somebody would sit there and control the lights, and 5 people would play in the band or sing. And that actually feels very, very differently. If you just play Rock Band in a well-lit room, or if you just turn around the seminar room, make a stage, have lights there, stroboscope and a smoke generator, and yeah. Yeah, I actually stopped because people were getting drunk, and then I had to go back to Villach, so I couldn't drink, and they were playing like 2 in the morning, and then were too drunk to get stuff back into the office, so it was then mostly work, so I stopped. But this is something that makes a game distinct. I mean, horror games or even these games. Yeah, and that's what we also wanted to do on the game jam. So just to give you an idea, we tried the input for a game called Headbangs, where you would headbang to a soundtrack, and that would be the different moves that would be supported by the game. And this was our demonstration prototype. That was the Headbang. 2 versions. Danny, actually the first one, now has a game studio. He's still working on his masterpieces. That I didn't know that, but it's very, very, very important in headbanging. You have the fingers like that or like that. And the air guitar. we actually didn't implement that because this is really hard. There was no clear definition of that. That was easy. But that was actually showing people that and then letting them do the moves was like prototyping the input of the game. I mean, the game then you can actually play it if you want. It's pretty hard, and it actually only supports the horns and head banging. But you can play it in 2 players. Yeah, it was actually nice. Okay, then prototyping technology. So implementing the whole game, you need some kind of framework. Unless you're making a board or a card game, of course. But still, then you still need some kind of technology. We did a board game last time, and we tried to print the pieces of the board, which then turned out to be, oh my God, this will be never finished in 24 hours. So you still have to prototype technology. What could you prototype? For instance, Remember Me. It's a game from Donut Studio. They are pretty well known for the last 2 games, but Remember Me was before that. And I've seen the visual artists on GDC, and they told about the dynamic and ambient shadows in Remember Me because they wanted to play it out in dirty Paris in the future. And at that time, the game engines were not able to create a dirty town. Nowadays, you have RTX. Now it's easy. I mean, easy if you have a lot of money. But you can basically do it with technology. At that time, they had to fake a lot of those things, and they had to find a way to do that, and they hacked a lot in Unreal Engine 3. Then Broken Age, also from a GDC talk, the example. So what they wanted to do is they wanted to have a 2D feel game, but with 3D elements. That sounds kind of awkward, but there's...
To 2.5D, there was like a time when it was the only kind of games that I was playing.
Yeah.
It's like you're still running in 3D, in 2D, but the landscapes and the backgrounds, like stuff comes out in.
Yeah. That's actually the cutscenes of The Witcher are like that, for instance. Yeah, The Witcher 3 has cutscenes that are 2.5D. But at that time, they had the problem that you could either use a 3D engine, you could use a commercial engine, or you could use a 2D engine. And they wanted to go open source with their engines because they had very bad experience with closed source engines. Because they found engine bugs just before the release date, and then the developers of the engine wouldn't fix it in time, or the quality control would be stuck or something like that. So they had to boost up a 3D or boost down a 3D or boost up a 2D engine because they wanted to have models that were able to put the arm around another model. So part of the model would be up front and part of the model would be hidden, occluded by the other model. So you can, of course, in a 2D engine, you can set one person in front and one in the back, but you can't do something like that. Like this arm is in front of the person, this is behind the person. Yeah. So the C layer in a typical 2D engine, you can do that if you put the person behind the other person, but if you do that, that's not possible. And that's what they wanted to have. So that was their technology prototype. They had to boost that up. And what we did, I hope it works. What we wanted to do here was, I'll play the game here. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to have a kind of a visual novel, but restrict, yes, here we are. Restrict the responses to an emotional, to kind of your face. So if the police stops you, you have to look friendly or sad or something like that.
Good evening and Merry Christmas, New York. You're listening to Radio Game Jam FM on this Christmas Eve. We hope you're having a lovely time with your family. If you're still on the road to get home, we offer you some special advice. A guideline for showing emotions when you receive your presents. How you express your face might influence your experience. Let's practice together.
I hope it works. I'm just looking at the So it has to load the emotion recognition model. It's TensorFlow.js in the background. He will start speaking again when it's done. Again, I hope that it works. So the idea was that, for instance, the mafia would stop you. And then depending on how you chose your answers, you would end up with something like a bag of money in your trunk or nicely rolled carpet. I don't know what's inside. And the next stop would be the police, and they would ask you, what's in there? And then you have to make a straight face or a neutral face, and so on. And then that's it. That was actually the whole idea. Yeah, I'm not sure if it works. But basically, you can try it just on a bigger computer. So I have this history of crazy input stuff. So it's on my itch page. If you register for the Game Jam, you'll see my name as an organizer, and there you can access headbanks. If you're not getting a headache, you're doing it wrong. Driving home for Christmas, yeah. A narrative game where facial expressions do make a difference. And yeah, you can fool around with the rest if you want. This one actually uses whistling as a input, so you have to whistle. Yeah, we had a lot of technology prototypes, of course. But you can do a lot. So what do you need for prototyping, basically? Yeah, just checking if I was finished with that. You should have literacy in some programming languages. As you've seen now, everything is in there already, like C# with XNA, Java, JavaScript. You can do Lua, as I said, RenPy, which is in Python. You can just point and click stuff. But it's good if you know at least one language, because, I mean, it makes it easier to learn a second, or just look up how you program it in a second language. Of course, if you're versed in at least one game engine, that also really helps, because if you want to flesh out ideas, then this is awesome. For instance, we had the game designer. She is rather successful in Berlin with indie games and special games on education. And she doesn't program a line of code, but she has so many prototypes in Scratch, and that is totally sufficient for her. So she fleshes out the idea in Scratch and then has a team actually implementing it. So being actually literate in Scratch is also enough, because this also presents you with an opportunity here. Of course, the more you know, the better, because especially the Healing Bullet people, which I told you about, they were extremely professional, but they did everything in Unity. And sometimes Unity is not the best choice. Sometimes. Like when you're testing a visual novel, for instance. So there are other games that can do, other game engines that can do that much faster, and that would be the great idea, to actually know a few of them, where you then can go and pull out the stuff you want. That's the whole idea. Then, of course, level editors and modding tools. If you have a game that is very similar, which you can choose up, or say, okay, I want to do it a little bit different, or I want to use this game mechanic to tell another story, maybe there's a level editor or a modding tool. Example, Portal. They are often, okay, I wouldn't write that in there anymore. Easier to learn and to use, no. Most modding tools are not. But if you're well versed in using a modding tool, then you can do a lot of stuff. And there are extremely popular things like the UI prototyping stuff. Figma, most of you have heard about that, most likely. So you can just fool people into using a real iPhone interface. But what I actually like, I don't know if proto.io is something like that. No, it's not. There was one that did all the stuff that Figma and so on did, but they had all the stuff hand-drawn. So it was rough sketches you could put together. And this is also an idea, if it is shiny, like here, and looks like a finished app, then people expect to behave it like a finished app. If you have something that looks like sketched or roughly drawn, then people will not expect it to work like a finished app, and will be different in their feedback. Yes? What is it called? Ninja? MOG? Ah, yes. Are there yes, that's what I'm searching for. Thank you very much. You see, it totally looks like a non-finished product, but this conveys a different feel to the testers. So can you test that? If you give them a fully fledged iPhone interface which looks shiny, then they will say, oh, that's like a real app. It should behave like a real app. You can give that to marketing people. Oh, I understand what you mean. It blinks and shines and does everything. But for a tester, it's often, not always, but often better to display it like that, because then they have the feeling it's an unfinished product. I'm happy to help you with just testing what is there. So they have a different support thingy. So that is actually cool. I have to use that. I like it. And I'll just put it here. Wait. So that everybody has it. Or ninjamock.com. Okay, I fixed it later. Yeah, and then there are these tools that are specific to a certain type of game. So this one actually, we use it for the first task in practical game engineering. So I hope all of you have already subscribed to practical game engineering. And the first mini jam will be done with Twine. And yeah, actually you definitely should watch this video. Now it takes some time for me to go to that video, because you know the number of clicks determines how easy a usable interface is actually. Yes. And the delays, of course. Yes. Yes, I'm at the university. Oh no, that was the wrong one. Practical recovery. Here we are, the other M item. So you should have access to it. And this would be the first video, me explaining Twine. You can of course use any resource you want, but I assume that you watch this one so you know what variables are, decisions, and how the actual story flows. There are many games that are built with Twine. So that's always a question. Is this any relevant? Why would Twine be relevant? Yeah, you can actually go to itch.io and just search for Twine. And then you'll find a lot of games that are made with Twine, tag Twine. And they are sometimes really, really cool. Horsemaster, the game of horse mastery. That is a really awesome title. Oh, I like that. The game Horsemaster, the game of horse mastery. I have to leave that open. That is awesome. Yeah, so I won't lose any words on that. But Bitsy, I had to cut it out from practical game engineering because of all the negative feedback from the students, but I still like it. It was actually a suggestion by a friend, and it's a game engine that is running on itch.io. It's of course free, and what you can do is you can paint stuff. For instance, you have these tiles, and then you can paint rooms, like let's put the cat in a room here, and there's another room, and then we can put an item in there, like a coffee cup, and there are other items. You have to fool around a little bit with it, of course, to understand what it's doing. But you create a room system like that, and then you can play the game. Write your game's title here. I'll call it sample game. No, Room Master. Game of room mastering. That is absolutely applicable to nearly everything I do. Room Master, a game of room mastering. Of course, you can upload your own music. Then you can walk around and you can interact with the stuff. I'm a cat. You found a nice warm cup of tea. Now it's in your items. Okay, obviously. Obviously, we have to fix the wall. Yeah, now it's a wall. Let's try it again. Of room mastering. Yeah, now it's a wall. Yeah, then you have, of course, an inventory. It's kind of here. You would see how many T's and keys you have, and then you can, whatever, unlock stuff with the keys and so on and so on. Then, for instance, you can change the dialogues. I'm cat, the cat. Yeah, do a lot of fun stuff, also connecting rooms. And it's extremely limited. For instance, you can set only one background color per room, like this one here. Set a tile color, like this one here, and set the sprite color. Yeah. Obviously, I'm not good at selecting colors, but it's really nice. I have to leave that one open with the game of Horse Mastery. I have to make a screenshot. It's so awesome. If you just search for Bitsy, there is a tag, of course. Bitsy. And people do a lot of fun stuff with Bitsy. So, topography. Continental Drift. Actually, that's the one I played before. Continental Drift. Can actually so obviously you can make these small stories that are interactive in this top-down style. I mean, this one was really short, maybe a little bit disturbing, but yeah, that's the whole idea. And you can do a lot of stuff with it. Actually, that's really fun. So last time I checked 2 years ago, it was only half of the functionality there, and it was already a lot of things you could learn about Bitsy, and there is a lot more now. So yeah, there is a dialogue editor, obviously. There's a tune editor, so you can make your own tunes in there. There is something to create sounds. You can record stuff, and that's actually the important part where you have exits and endings where you switch between the rooms. Okay, so that's another thing which you can use for prototyping. And if you get a rough idea, sketch it out, then you can actually make an interactive prototype with Bitsy really fast. If your game fits that style, like moving through rooms, talking to people, collecting items, solving puzzles. Otherwise, of course, no. And actually, it plays on a mobile phone. That's the best part of it. So you can actually play it on a mobile phone. So these people are really crazy. Then RenPy. I already mentioned it. RenPy is actually a very good production engine. Lots of games, also on Steam, not only on itch.io, use it, like Doki Doki Literature Club. And it's really easy to use. So the tutorial is a RenPy game itself, and we used it for practical game engineering at some point, but we then moved away from it because it's very limited in terms of doing a visual novel to then adding interactivity. This jump is too big. While Bitsy gives you a jump at the beginning, and then the next jump to more interactivity is smaller. So that's kind of, then everybody ended up with this really easy thing, and then aligning text and making the colors match and stuff like that. But you can do a lot of stuff with it. I think Monster Match, have I told you about Monster Match, one of the games from the Game Jam? That was totally done in RenPy. It was a dating simulator for monsters in a bar. So there were witches and the Lindwurm from Klagenfurt, which is kind of a dragon. And you just download it, and then you create a game framework, and then you can edit in a text file what is going on, put in your images, and then make a kind of a dialogue tree, a nonlinear dialogue tree. So also a great way to prototype stuff. And of course, Scratch. Also see practical game engineering, but I'll just show you the idea of it. Scratch, actually, there's one thing with Scratch I want to warn you about. Scratch is a programming community for kids. So don't go there and put in something not appropriate for kids. They will ban you really fast. So no swear words and stuff like that. They keep their community really clean. But on the other hand, you can do a lot of stuff. Wait. The editor is online. You can also download it. So for instance, where is it? Operator, no, events. When clicked, for instance, when clicked, we can change y by 10. If you play the game, okay. That's already an easy stuff, but typically you do a reset in there. So typically you start the game. Wait, where do? Now I haven't played it that, but I haven't had so much fun. Forever, repeat 10 times, forever. And then set the go to, where are we, x and y. X and y, x is 0, y is minus 100. You already have a small game loop. Yeah. So starting the game, something like that happens. I'll disconnect it here. But you also can also forever, where is it? Motion, glide, go to, and now the idea would be to go to the mouse pointer, go to mouse X and mouse Y. Let's start it. And then you can move it around with the mouse. So a lot of things you can do. If you add additional sprites, then you have collision detection. So if somebody is collided with the sprite, then you can actually send messages to sprites. That's inter-object communication already for the programmers. So a lot of things you can actually do with it. It's huge fun. And you can see what other people are doing. Oh, wait. I can actually, I think I still have, yes, still verlassen, untitled. Yeah, I obviously showed a lot. I can do animations. Oh. I think that's the game from the tutorial. And you have to shoot the power-ups, unfortunately. Now I have 4. It's a really nice sound, isn't it? Okay, so you can do a lot of fun stuff with Scratch. So that's another option to be versed in one programming language. And finally, and that's the video I was talking about, it's down here, if you want to take a look at it. I actually watched this video and it was such a nice, at the beginning, why you need prototypes, that I had to put in this as a conclusion. So what about prototypes? What is the conclusion? Prototypes allow you to test crazy ideas. So if you come up with something like, oh my God, I really always wanted to do SimCity clone that actually connects with a first-person shooter where you're throwing grenades at rabbits or something like that. Yeah, then you can test that with a prototype. Developing a game would be too risky otherwise. With prototypes, you can fail more often because you're not so much emotionally invested in the game. You have this crazy idea, whatever, play darts as a round-based combat simulation. Yeah, then try it out. If it doesn't work, throw it away and come up with the next idea. So you can fail more often. And you can answer specific questions, and you should actually answer specific questions. For instance, how can I capture the feeling of a live concert? Going back to headbangs. Make the music extremely loud and get everybody having really, really an aching neck. Yeah, so that would be the conclusion prototypes, and that's actually something that is used a lot in Scrum, where you handle yourself from one prototype to the next and just test if it's actually doing the stuff you want. Okay, if you want to go into that whole thing more, there is this GDC video on building a prototype for narrative design, but that would be the reading for today, non-mandatory. Other than that, I have nothing more. Any questions? No? You're good? Yes?
I'd just like to ask about, is prototyping related to the games sometimes released as alpha stages, beta stages? Are those, at which point they are prototypes or not? Do we have a straight definition for that?
I don't have a straight definition, but I would say, or from the top of my head, I would define it as a prototype is something you would still be able to throw away. If you're in alpha stage, then you wouldn't throw away all the code from alpha stage, but you would try to fix it. Yeah, so that would be the difference for me. Okay, anything else? Nope, then thank you very much for coming and have a great day. Bye.